For the record, my mic is not... Well, it's muted on purpose. While we wait for the lobby to begin. I assure you, at some time tonight, we will have arc racing, but in the meantime, we are stuck in this very interesting looking lobby screen. What's going on? There we go. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, we have finally arrived after a very long delay in the lobby pre-race. We are here for round 3 of the ARC Prototype Challenge. Why did I say it that way? I missed round 2 due to, well, being sick. Thanks, Mom. And then last week was an off day because of Canadian Thanksgiving, but we are finally back for more ARC Prototype Challenge competition. Obviously, we have just begun qualifying. And, well, here at the circuit of Spa, outlaps are probably going to take up half the session, as is usually the case. I have to, like, kind of work myself back into the flow of actually commentating, since it's been 3 weeks since I have commentated an ARC race. I've commentated videos on my own channel, but as for actually having a professional-ish commentary, I have not done so since towards the end of September with the first round of this championship back in Imola. So I'm having to, like, kind of remember the names, remember the motions, remember the rules, remember who sucks and who's fast, etc. The cold is not completely gone either. It's like 95, 96% dealt with, but there is still a tiny amount of raspiness and graveliness, is probably not even a word, in my voice, and I'm still coughing every once in a while, and by that I mean like every 3 minutes. Sometimes less than that, it just depends. But we have the camera on Tim Galvin as he makes his return to ARC Project Cars 2 competition after a bit of hiatus, and he will open up the session with the first flying lap. I almost said fought lap, and I'm like, that's not a word. Flying lap of the evening. And he's going to immediately have traffic up ahead. Possibly. I don't know. That car will have plenty of time to get out of the way if it even is in the way at all. I can't actually tell what it is, or who it is. Yeah, no, they're out of the way. Like, the Kemmel Straight gives you approximately 7 years to get out of somebody's way, so there'd be no excuse for them to impede Galvin as he heads into Sector 2. Even more traffic, which is wildly out of control up ahead. And, well, they'll go flying off the track. I think I remember seeing the pre-race screen. That might be a Logan Cool right there. That made an escape. No, my voice and lungs, they still have to kind of get acclimated to what's going on here, so there'd be a lot of muting of my microphone, especially early on in the stream, I figure. Galvin is getting on rather well as he heads to Sector 3. Almost done with the first lap of the session. A lap around Spa is truly a roller coaster ride, and I'm pretty sure I've seen some theme parks with roller coaster rides that are probably shorter than the laps we'll be looking at today. A good lap here is still upwards of 2 minutes 10, so in my own testing session I was in the 2:13s, and I'm just a commentator, so somebody who actually actively races will probably be faster than that. Tim Galvin will cross the line. The first representative lap is indeed a 2:10.5, so maybe it'll break under the 2:10s, but a 2:10 lap time is still, could be considered competitive or decent, I would suppose. Another thing worth noting, other than Tim Galvin, we also have the obligatory random Hunter Smith ARC start that was, I believe, part of the reason why the lobby took as long as it did to get started. Normally he saves those unexpected starts for ARC NASCAR competition, but he decides to pay us plebs down in the Project Cars series a visit for a day. And we might see him again next year, probably, for the 500, like the Daytona 500. specifically. Luis Ramirez ran a 2:10.7. Dylan Bam ran a 2:12.2. Travis Van Oostendorp with a 2:13.2. Jurgensmeyer 2:13.4. Fabian 2:14.6, and those are all of the laps so far. Never mind, somebody else just put up a lap. That's AJ with a 2:16.9. I'm gonna assume that's not representative whatsoever. Oh yeah, I almost forgot to mention Tim Galvin is driving for 44R, which I believe that was what was supposed to happen at some point, if not here, then in some other series, possibly GT7, I believe. But that didn't work due to scheduling conflicts, which I guess are alleviated now since he's obviously on the track and currently sitting pole, so I guess he's not out of practice or anything like that. I accidentally hit the PS button trying to mute so I could cough. Tim has only been able to complete 2 laps and the session timer is almost wound down. 3 minutes and change left. A 2:10.1 posted by the 83 car, so he ups the ante even further. He already had the top time. Runner Smith, Connor Hannick, Matthew Stotts, and Deshaun Davidson are still yet to complete a lap that has counted, and Logan Cool and Matthew Daly, I think, only have run out laps. Dylan Bam does Dylan Bam things. He jumps to the top of the board, 2:09.2, so he is going to be the one that brings us into sub-10s. You know, we watched Deshaun Davidson cross the line 2:30 something, so that's probably an out lap or a lap where he spun. And continuing tradition, he almost spins again, or spins going through the source. He basically spun. That's close enough for it to matter, I would say. This Ramirez is a big moment over the curb, but it's not nearly as big as the moment that Logan Cool had with the outside barriers. Oh my word! There's a huge crash right behind him. What car was that? Yeah, past tense, important. Who was that just absolutely got unalived? It wasn't Ramirez. Same car, but he's too far along the racetrack for that. I don't know who that was. AJ Knickel got to a 2:09.9, so that's multiple laps under the 2:10 mark. Oh. Ooh, Matthew. Yeah, Riker. Matthew Stotts disconnects with a minute to go in qualifying, so he might struggle to even get back into the lobby before it transitions to the race session. Which more than likely means we'll probably have to restart said lobby for that, because we cannot have a Project Cars 2 race without a lobby reset. Dylan is satisfied with this 2:09.2. Admittedly, I don't see why he shouldn't be. But there is still ample time for AJ Knickel or Tim Galvin, or maybe even another surprise speedrunner to maybe try and displace that lap time. All things considered, I'm not super convinced, but we've seen crazier things. Speaking of obligatory every week. AJ trickles through the bus stop chicane, and we'll see if he somehow finds 7/10 in that race car. He's going to find only half a second. So, insurance that'll help him hold on to second on the board, but he's not overcoming Dylan Bam's lap time. Alvin on his return to the series. Let's see what the sector split says, and it is not a pretty picture. So, I think barring something astronomical, Dylan Bam will have yet another pole position. Regardless, we will see the session through, obviously. Who is leading? Connor Hannick will be the first to reach the finish line in the moment. Maybe not, as he completely overruns the bus stop, so if he does, I mean, he'll probably get to finish the lap, but it won't be any good. It wasn't even a lap. Either that or it wasn't valid, so never mind all of that. Daly jumps to a 2:13.7. I cough again, excuse me. Travis comes across, and the last three vehicles to cross, including him and two others, that is quick math. Travis jumps, I believe, a little bit, and okay, the session's over, I didn't get to see anything else that happened, alright. So, somewhat business as usual. You can definitely see where the skill gap is. Luis Ramirez fourth on the grid, and then Jurg fifth on the grid, over a second and a half off of that. And then you pretty much have everybody else down from there. Game, what is this camera supposed to accomplish? This is a very interesting empty grid slot here. Okay. Sure. Okay, yep, now we're cooking. Now we're looking at the actual drivers and not just at a random grid slot. So the rundown of the grid, assuming that we are taking the flag here, which I feel like everybody would have exodus, not a word. There would have been an exodus by now if we weren't proceeding with this lobby. Matthew Stotts didn't even rejoin, so I suppose that probably contributes to things. Dylan Bam is your pole sitter, alongside AJ Knickel. Tim Galvin on his return shows he hasn't lost too much pace with third. Luis Ramirez, Jonathan Jurgensmeyer, my mom's phone call that's probably picking up on the microphone. Travis Van Oostendorp, Fidel Fabian with the most American-looking car I've ever seen. Matthew Daly, Gabe Cazola, Logan Cool, Deshaun Davidson, and then Connor Hannick and Hunter Smith did not complete valid laps, so they will start at the back of the grid. As preparation time will soon be running out, you can kind of tell by the time remaining there, it's at 43:18, which means a minute 40 has passed, so you only get 2 minutes in that pre-race screen, so whoever's dilly-dallying had best speed things up or get completely left behind. Somebody is a very lucky boy. It was probably Travis, because he likes to wait until the literal last second. And green! The very quiet end... Oh right, we're doing a rolling start. That's how long it's been. That's how long it has been since, yeah, I forgot we changed that rule. Okay, so I had like an extra 4 minutes to go over all of that, because, yeah, that's about how long we're going to be waiting here for. 60 miles an hour around this gargantuan track. It's going to take a minute. It's going to take several minutes. Because there was, well, I can attempt to kind of give a basic rundown of what happened last week. Maybe. Probably not, though. Okay, I can't find anything. Where is the social post from last week? Gosh, by the time I find the win post from Prototype Challenge, we'll be going green. There's the Nürburgring Masters. There's an IndyCar thing. Okay, grand. I guess we're just not gonna know. But I do know some things about this circuit. Obviously, I've unfortunately raced here many times. For those who aren't caught up with the ARC lore, a race that happened here last year was pretty much the reason... That race basically ended my racing career in ARC. APC at Spa last year, this time, was basically the race that spelled my retirement. Losing to Logan Cool back when he still used his numbskull wheel will do that. But I think the biggest struggle here is we're racing now in autumn conditions, and the track has quite a bit of cloud coverage. This track, the biggest problem is probably going to be tire temperature. There are a lot of gaps in between corners. You have the run down the Kemmel Straight, you have the run from Stavlo to the bus stop, and little tinier straightaways too that'll make your tires cool off. But the action is heating up, as Dylan Bam floors it as the earliest convenience. And we are officially, this time, green for the ARC Prototype Challenge. Dylan Bam has left everybody standing still. And Galvin almost too wide with his teammate. Actually, might have been at the apex, but it didn't really look like it from this camera angle. A little further down the order, we're going to see possibly somebody go too wide up Eau Rouge. No, Jurgensmeyer decides better of that. And it looks like we've sort of gotten through Sector 1, which is always the hardest part of a race. It's somebody up ahead who had to take some extra racetrack to avoid disaster. Travis Van Oostendorp practically defends to the grass. And I believe we just saw some lag contact there with Luis and Matthew Daly. And Luis continues to be a lag obstacle. Because I think he just drove into the... Well, his leg drove him into the side of people just there, it seems like. No cataclysmic occurrence, though, just yet, so we obviously will remain green. Bam already has a 1.5 second lead and growing. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I didn't expect that. Matthew Daly is still under pressure from Travis Van Oostendorp after he overtook him on the Kemmel Straight, I believe. And we've already, for the most part, just kind of single-filed out a little bit. Although that said, if Jurgensmeyer were any close to the back of his former teammate Fidel Fabian's car, he could probably reach out and touch it. But he does not have it in him to go for a move at the bus stop. More contact behind. Luis Ramirez gives Gabe Cazola a big bump. Luis, he had a possibility of getting ahead of Gabe Cazola there, but could not capitalize on anything. As we summit Eau Rouge and Radion. And wow, Gabe just, unless he got to slow down, he just got absolutely mugged down the Kemmel Straight. Luis goes for a move down the inside. He will do the super late braking and somehow get it stopped to complete a move on Jurgensmeyer. That's left Jurgensmeyer in a bit of an awkward position. If the camera would like to keep up with things, my god. Hanek, I believe that was, it was Cazzola that was forced off the racetrack by something that the camera decided we didn't need to see. Ramirez now comes up alongside Fidel Fabian heading towards the S's. Sweeps on the outside. That's going to be an interesting line on exit, though. Fidel makes the crossover attempt, but he's going to be stuck the long way around for Stavlo 1, and Ramirez will somehow make that stick. Tim Galvin is still very much on the heels of his team owner, AJ Knickel, but he's not able to make enough. He's not able to get close enough to think of passing him, so he just kind of remains, well, there. That's a close-up shot if I ever saw one, my word. Now Ramirez is a little bit awkward off the bus stop. Fidel Fabian has something of a run on him. We'll see if he can convert into a position. Does he dare challenge Luis's bandwidth? Luis backs up his exit from the source, and that'll get him away from Fidel Fabian safely. For the time being, at the very least. Now, Tim was definitely close enough to think about it, but he still decided not to force the issue with his teammate yet. But the issue is definitely being forced back here as Fidel Fabian gets back ahead of Ramirez on the Kennel Straight. Ramirez will attempt to find a prototypes with in between him and the track limits. Meanwhile, Jonathan Jurgensmeyer is exceeding the track limits behind him. Oh, there was nearly contact. Ramirez had to jam on the brakes for Fuhan, a corner which you can basically just downshift and swing it in the LMP3 normally. So clearly a big difference in the bravery of the two drivers, and that nearly resulted in a big crash by the looks of it. But the key word is nearly, and Fidel Fabian is completely off of the track. Joined there by Jurgensmeyer, probably a bit of a Lemmings case, where he watched Jurg's incredibly incorrect line through there and replicated it for himself. Fidel Fabian loses a place to Gabe Cazzola as well as to Jurgensmeyer. Too wide through Blanchemont, and somehow Hanek and Jurgensmeyer keep that on the tarmac. Hanek has a peek down the inside, but he does not have it in him. Fidel Fabian goes about a mile off the racetrack at the following bus stop. And he was ahead of Gabe for a moment, but that didn't last. Nose to tail are the two 44R drivers. Just about reach out and touch him, and he almost did as we turned in for Eau Rouge. Moving from side to side, trying to figure out what lane his teammate would like. But I think AJ would probably like them all if he could choose. Too wide between 44R teammates. I don't expect it to be that much of a fight. And, yeah, no, AJ gets back into the lead of the duo. Honestly, I didn't even notice that AJ was the car behind it first. I didn't look at the leaderboard. I just saw the two green cars were near each other, and I'm like, oh, battle. I didn't really pay attention to which number was where, because I couldn't see the numbers of the camera angles we were seeing. Speaking of camera angles, oh my god, he's not over there anymore. I'm really getting annoyed with that. Oh, we're too wide up to Puhan. and Travis will concede that one. Hanek will concede track limits, just about. I don't know. I don't think the in-game stewards will be terribly impressed with that line. Hanek will be under threat from Fidel Fabian. Down the inside goes the world's most American prototype car. Nearly touching wheels there, or I guess fenders, since these aren't open wheel cars. Don't know why I said wheels. Now we're nearly touching diffusers. Fidel Fabian is basically able to shake Connor Hanek's hand as we head towards the bus stop, but this time they both do get it stopped, crucially. Seems like the battles we were having in the first 10 minutes, they're now finally coming to an end. Everybody is more or less settling out to where they should be in the running order. Fidel Fabian decides that that is nuts to him, and he might look for a move on the British driver, and he will. Down the inside, the dying car goes, and that's, well, clean and efficient. I don't think Connor Hanek was exactly tapping into his defensive driving for that moment either, which probably made things a little easier for Fidel. Oh, that's not making things easier for Travis, though. The stewards are definitely not going to like that line. I'm pretty sure he's going to get beeped at in a moment. Yeah, you can see he let off there. It's going to lose him time, obviously. Another one of those, and you'll have Fidel Fabian for company, rather than be looking at Juergensmeyer. Travis just had to play tug-of-war with the outside curb there. That'll lose him even more time. It's not much. Every incident, every mistake he's making, they're only losing him about a tenth or two, but it's certainly adding up, and you can see it already. That's going to be a huge bus stop for Fidel Fabian. Travis is taking a unique racing line heading down the front stretch. Not really sure what the goal was there, but who knows? Probably doesn't really matter either. Travis is like taking the defensive line the second that he's done making the turn previous. It's not really going to matter a whole lot, I don't think, in that way. Fidel is now very much in range of that matte black racing machine on the outside of Van Oostendorp with the vastly superior run-up Radeon. And that is looking like it is no contest. Let's see if Connor Hanek will compete. Oh, Fidel's run did stall out there, allowing Travis to stay near. Oh, man. Very close quarters combat here in the mid-pack. But close quarters doesn't always mean contact. And somehow we are avoiding that in this instance. Oh, but the stewards are going to be displeased with that one. I think that was probably a little bit much, but that's also what Travis just did on the full exit, so... Yeah, Fidel is given the slowdown, and he must let off, which allows Connor Hanek to grab that position with no resistance. He's going to try for a second position, but this one will put up resistance. And here comes Fidel Fabian again, recovering from... recovering from that penalty with a good second half of the S's and a run through Stavlo, but couldn't get it sealed up there. So I mean, it's not like there's any lack of passing zones here at Spa. There's like I would probably say in this car like 5. And here's one of them, and Fidel is going to try and use it. They make contact at the apex. I think Fidel should theoretically have had the better run, and that is looking to be the case as we head back across the start-finish. Connor wanted to turn in, noticed that Fidel was a little closer to him than he expected, and the momentum loss from turning out and back into the turn. How many times have I said turn in that statement? Fidel passes. There we go. That's the point. Oh, Travis is taking a unique line. That's going to lose him all the time. Fidel has to give a wide berth just so Travis doesn't come back and clobber him. Hannick dances between the two race cars, and Travis is now the spectator as it's Fidel and Hannick too wide into Lake Home, not List Source. Still almost contact. Fidel is forced onto the inside curbs. Tries the long way around, more contact. Travis is licking his chops. He's trying to find somewhere to make it 3, but he can't find the space to put his LMP. More contact at the apex. Fidel just turning in a little clumsy there, but ultimately it's not going to make a huge difference. Hannick, another liberty taken on the exit of a turn. And Fidel foolishly tries the long way around at Puhan, and that is never going to work. Not even in an F1 car, much less a P3. Hannick defends. Oh, he got a slowdown. So that battle is over, and it returns to being, big contact. I don't think Hannick was ready for that. Keeps it barely off the wall. That will put the 75 car out of that battle. I don't think Hannick was ready or I don't think Travis, I should say, was ready for Hannick to be there after he had just served a slowdown penalty. I think they failed to calculate how much time both Fidel and Travis had lost running too wide in the S's. Certainly more than it seemed like, obviously, or we wouldn't have had that crash. The damage sustained is enough to incentivize Travis to pit, even if it wasn't a mandatory stop, or I should say, even if he didn't want to do it now, you might as well. That is an interesting sponsor, deaftolionfish.org. What? And Hannick also has to pit for what is probably even more damage than Travis took, and he's going to be out of the pits first. I guess he just followed him in to cover him off, maybe? Damage wouldn't have been too bad. Hannick's already on his way out. Meanwhile, Travis is still here. He may... I don't think he's... I was going to say he might go a lap down from that, but then I looked and saw Dylan Bam was in the S's, not really that close to him. Not close to the pit lane either. So, no, I don't think Travis is in danger of going one down from this. Although he isn't moving. He's got about 15 seconds to be out of that box, as now Logan Cool has gotten ahead of Travis. Still no movement from the 25 car, and Logan is approaching. He's in the bus stop, so Travis is indeed going to go a lap down from all of what he was pitting to fix, which must have been more than I'd ever imagined he had to fix there. Yep, there goes Dylan, and now he pulls out of the stall. As now even Tim Galvin drives by, and AJ Knickel. He might come out ahead of Matthew Daly, but that's a mere consolation and not much else at that point. You're already a lap down, and you're not even the leader among the cars who are. I think. Actually, no, he probably, yeah, he would be, because Logan's not lapped. Never mind, I don't know what I'm talking about. And now, as we get near to the halfway point, we just kind of wait and see what happens with the pit cycles, which are, they have to be happening in the near future. I'd have to think. With halfway probably being around the end of this lap, you know, ignoring the, you know, taking the pace lap out of the equation. You might as well do it now if you're, you know, somebody who's not really near traffic, which at the moment, nobody is. The two closest cars together on the racetrack at the moment, by the looks of it, are... Yeah, Tim Galvin and Dylan Pham are the closest together, and they're still 5 seconds apart. So it really is just a case of seeing who wins and loses in the pit cycle to see if that can maybe have some effect on this race and make things more intriguing going forward. Failing that, though, we might just be looking at 20 minutes of parade laps top speed. Which really is not what I'm looking for, admittedly, as a commentator. You know, Dylan doesn't break off. .44R drivers remain outside of the pits, as Matthew Daly do. He stays out. I cough. We still have that weird camera bug we were having the last time a race took place at Spa, where it would just randomly decide that it needed to look at Jamie Wright, and the camera had to be the one that was placed outside of Radion. Regardless of whether or not Jamie Wright was anywhere near those corners, he could have very easily have been in Stavlo 2, and the camera still would have tried to look at him when whoever I was following at the time drove up Radion. Instead, we just have cameras that take forever to pan over to where they're supposed to look. Here I was downshifting for that. Apparently that isn't even needed if you're good at the game. These time penalties really seem inconsequential with where we are in the race right now. Oh no, you have a 1 second penalty. Good thing the next car is like 6 back, you know? If you're Matthew Daly, you probably aren't even thinking about that yet. It literally doesn't matter. Looks like AJ is closing back in on his teammate though. But, no, they both pit here. Oh yeah, that's right, we can do that. This isn't F1. I'm like, aren't they double stacking? Well, no, not really. It doesn't exist in this game. They have different stalls, fool. So the two 44R cars are the first among relevant drivers, like, you know, ones who could be contending for a race win given circumstances. They are the first ones to pit, and admittedly I say that, but that list of drivers at this moment is basically just the top 5 and no one else. If, say, Dylan gets in a big crash on the way into the pit lane, or on the way out of the pit lane, or something, who would be in a spot where they could pick up the pieces, and really, the only ones that fall under that category are the rest of the top 5. And even by that margin... Excuse me, and even by that margin, Jurgensmeyer is a distant shout. This is Matthew Daly, second on track on pit cycles. He has Travis for company, who is a lap down after his contact with Connor Hannick earlier. Speaking of Connor Hannick, it seems he has used some Fidel Fabian made a mistake by the looks of it, or he just pit. I think he just pit, and I just zoned out and didn't notice, because that's a really long lap time. Close to what AJ's lap time was, and he just pit himself. And on pit cycles, we now have Hannick near Fabian. So we'll see if we get another battle out of these two, or if maybe Fabian just concedes. Or maybe Fabian will be able to pull away, because I can only assume he's got better tires if he just pit. Assuming he changed them. If not, then I'm absolutely speaking nonsense. This is when I wish I could cut to a commercial break. Why can't I be NBC? Oh, that was sketchy. Hannick had to take evasive action. Difference in braking points almost led to a disaster at the bus stop, but Hannick narrowly manages to avoid contact with Fidel. Part of me wishes he didn't, because then we might have had a caution and the field would have been bunched up, but, you know, here we are. Sad nobody's hit that pit wall yet. Maybe we'll see that on the cooldown lap or something. That would spice things up, but you're also, subject to penalties if you hit it, even if by accident, I think. At least that's how it has been in previous races at this track, so I can't imagine we've changed that. But who knows? We are reaching 15 minutes to go here from Spa. And, well, 15 minutes on the timer, but we are not half an hour in. However, Matthew Daly does pit, which will forfeit his second position to, well, temporarily Jonathan Jurgensmeyer. We once again see Hannick and Fidel nearby each other. These two are definitely the content farm of this evening. We haven't had a lot of battling in this race, but these two, along with Travis for a while, have been the only drivers that are consistently fighting each other on this track. And it's silly to me that that's even the case, because there are 13 people on it. There's no reason that this should be so desolate, but it is. And obviously the track's length is some contributor to that, but that's not the only thing about it, is the thing. Hennig had a bit of a wide berth at the exit of, yeah, there's the slowdown. I'm like, there's no way the game didn't yell at him for that one. Man, they really yelled at him. Like, they gave him the angry wife treatment over that one. Dude fell out of... He lost over a second there. The $64,000 question here is going to be, when Dylan does eventually decide to pit in, keyword eventually, will the undercut put him within range of Tim Galvin and AJ Nickel? Is 45 seconds enough of a delta when he goes into the pits? Because Dylan Bim has to pit. I'm pretty sure that's non-negotiable because of mandatories. So he has to do it somewhere between now and the penultimate lap. I saw that exclamation mark appear. Hennig is just like barely clinging on to the back of Fidel. He's just close enough to be in his rearview mirror, but he's not currently a massive threat to try and take the spot away from him. Always just kind of teetering on the edge of slipstream range. But if Hennig could get into slipstream range and get a really good run out of Radeon, this battle may just be reignited. But that is quite a couple of steps. I mean, yeah, it's two, but you get the idea. This has not been a race to remember for Ramirez, considering he was, for what I would consider, best of the rest in qualifying with 4th place. I don't know, you could either be best of the rest or worst of the best. I'm not really sure how you'd look at it. It's either him or Travis, but neither of them have had great races, so... This has plummeted from 4th on the grid down to 12th. At least 1 lap down, close to 2, I would say, for the moment. As we are at 9 minutes to go, so based on where Dylan is on the track, that should be about 4 laps remaining. Maybe not 4, could be, I don't know, it should be 4 still. Yin Jurgensmeyer still haven't pit yet. And Dylan is kind of running low on valid laps on which to do so. Jurgensmeyer hasn't pit yet either. as he will send Travis a lap down. I believe they're teammates, although their cars don't look like team cars in the strict sense. They, I believe, are nonetheless. But Jürgensmeyer pits regardless, so all of that is a moot point. And before he even gets to his stall, both of the 44R cars will drive by him anyway. That was probably part of it. He was probably just staying around on the track until they got to him, and then pit the second they were nearby, just to, you know, avoid any risks. I've done that before. Somebody's retired the car. I believe that would be Travis. Based on my, you know. He and Ramirez have had equally nightmarish days on the racetrack here. The 244R cars, they're getting a little close again. They were fighting earlier. I don't know if you'd really call it a fight. It was more like a disagreement on who should be where on the racetrack, less than a battle for a position. I should be in second. No, I should be in second. Well, you're a loser, basically. Obviously, that is a very accurate representation of how that conversation went. Be quiet. No, I'm not losing my mind. You be quiet, too. I'm definitely not just looking at any two cars that are within a minute of each other and just being like, oh, they might battle on the racetrack. They might do racing on the race course. We spent the last 16, 17 minutes with absolutely none of that. But it looks like we might be in for some battles here. The 3-car train, Jürgensmeyer, has entered the circuit right in between Fidel and Connor. We'll see if he can get away from Connor and or get ahead of Fabian, or if we're going to have a bit of a concertina effect and we'll have a 3-car battle as they run to the checkers. At long last, after 85 long years, Dylan Bam has finally put his car in the pit lane, and we'll see if that undercut has, can you even call it undercut at this point? It's done something. Dylan Bam is about to lose the race lead. He's on his way out of the pits, but it's not enough. He's now going to have 3 laps with what I can only assume to be fresh tires, you know, getting a pit stop animation or anything, to run down what appears to be about a 5-second gap between him and the 2 green machines ahead. And now, suddenly, if there were any thoughts in these 2 drivers' heads about fighting, now they have to even give it more consideration, because they might just be pushing themselves backwards into the jaws of Dylan Bam. Anik has dispatched of Jürgensmeyer, or possibly he dispatched of himself, and a second battle might yet still brew between himself and the 9 of Fabian. But in the meantime, AJ he's thinking fight at the moment. He's thinking, you know, somebody's got to go. It's been a great joyride, Tim Galvin, but unfortunately, you missed rounds 1 and 2, and I did not. And in case to be seen, will Galvin understand and accept that fact and roll over, or will AJ be the one rolling over like he did at Imola? That would be some drama a la Breaking Point 2.0 right there. Or do we get to see anything at all? Can't count the chickens before they hatch. You might not get a battle for position at all, and they just hold station to keep Dylan Bam away. Usually you'd use bug spray for that, but that doesn't really work on Dylan. For obvious reasons, not the least of which being, he's not a bug. Even if DEED is harmful to humans. I don't know where that tangent's going, don't ask. Moment of truth that decides how eager the 244 cars are to fight each other. That will be revealed on the backstretch. Will AJ get a run out of... I almost said the source. No, Eau Rouge, French words. Not been the run out of the actual the source that he needs. Dylan didn't do any better. They're both getting away from Dylan, as a matter of fact. They might just have space to duke it out on the final lap if they can keep the current pace. As it stands, though, AJ Knickel is not close enough to his teammate to even think of an attack. He's going to get up to his doorstep, but it's going to be too little too late. Meanwhile, Hannick is still remaining social distance away from Fidel Fabian's car, but he's just not able to close what remains of that distance. It's only about a second and a half between the two, but it just there's a bit of air. It seems like it's just something that Hannick cannot deal with, other than paid healthcare that's in the way. 2 minutes on the race timer, so we will be looking at 1 lap to go when we head back on the main straight one more time. And it's been another one of those races, kind of like Snitterton and IndyCar, where it's been a long build-up to a short dash to the start-finish line. AJ can grab it here, as Dylan Bam has apparently made a mistake somewhere along the way. Now he's 7.5 back, so as long as these two cars don't literally take each other out, George Russell and Hamilton style, they will be finishing 1-2. It's just a matter of what order do they come in. AJ wants to be the first. Obviously, it's a race. It's not going to happen in the bus stop, but there's still multiple opportunities to get it done. The source, Eau Rouge if you got a good slipstream, Lake Com, Rivage, the bus stop, even Stavro 1. AJ's going to pick the earliest convenience. And I'm not sure if Galvin wanted the slipstream there. I think he just let him go. And I thought maybe we'd actually have a race. But Dylan has really fumbled that bag. I don't know. Oh my god, that car is in pieces. That's the real battle to the finish line. Forget... Oh my word, we almost have a rollover. Oh dear lord. Big damage dealt to Dylan Bam. As if there wasn't already enough damage dealt. He had to make it 1 more lap to at least get a podium, and I think he was just trying to do too much with too little. And now he literally has way too little. He doesn't have much of a car left, and... Oh man. Call an ambulance. Call a tow truck. Call something. Call the Ghostbusters. Because that man is dead. His dreams are dead. Some lap traffic, I don't really think that'll play a factor. Just because I don't think Galvin would capitalize even if it did slow AJ down. Which, I mean, it is, at the moment, looking cool, just about 1 off to the beach. He does take the blue flags, which surprises me. And so, with the obstacle removed, and his teammates... Oh, AJ's missed the bus stop. It doesn't really matter. AJ Knickel heads out of the bus stop, takes the victory from Spa, and his teammate will come right across behind him in P2. That'll be given to him on a penalty, but that can very easily be counted back, as it usually is. So I would just kind of assume that that's null and void. And amidst the chaos of Dylan Bam's car falling apart like a Lego set, as well as his racecraft, Matthew Daly heads out of that same bus stop. He will grab the final spot on the podium. Hanek places 4th. Penalties applied again. I don't really think too much of them. Usually they just get removed. But then again, they were track extension penalties, so it's situational. As Dylan attempts to bring his go-kart back to the line, he led basically all but 3 laps, but he missed the most important ones, and he's also missing most of his race car. He will head out of the bus stop. Probably wishing he didn't get out of bed this morning. That's not the finish line, pal. There it is. And yeah, that will wrap things up. That's pretty much everybody across the line and accounted for. I forgot that they could just do that.
Just so you know, Riker, I did tell Tim before the, before we went into like the last 4 laps that penalty I am appealing, because I gave up more than what should have been a 1-second penalty. So,
yeah, I generally tend to assume that that's the case. I was literally saying that as he crossed the line, like, oh, that's a penalty, but that has almost always been counted back unless it's something egregious.
I know with Project Cars our rules are a little different in that like people can give the time back, so I just thought as a commentator you should know that when interviewing people in order.
So, well, I mean, penalty or otherwise doesn't change who finishes in 3rd place following the broken pieces of Dylan's race car. Matthew Daly finds himself in 3rd place. I can't even really ask what you was. I guess what was going through your head there, but like probably not much.
Not much.
Not to say that you weren't thinking, just like there's not much to think about. His car's in 21 million pieces outside of Radion. It's not like he had to push for the position.
Yeah, I was no thought behind my eyes. I was just doing what I needed to do, minding the terrible shadows that are from the trees on there. Just trying to finish out the race, and that was it. So.
Yeah, I don't really have a question. I didn't really have a question planned for you because I didn't. I thought Dylan would stay in 3rd, but he did not. So. Really threw a wrench in my works there. And then
Tim is joining.
Oh yeah, sure, he sure is. He spoke him into existence. Yeah, 2nd place after probable countback on penalties because the slowdown command in this game doesn't always make sense. Well, I mean, how long has it been since your last Arc Star? It's been a few months, I would say. At least.
The last round of Supercars, I think.
Whoops. I would have known that if I didn't get a cold.
The last round of Supercars would have been December? Right? That sound right, Tim?
Probably, yeah.
So, I suppose, how much of a weight is it off your shoulders to see that you still had pace? I mean, if the car behind you weren't a teammate, you probably would have fought for the win and probably would have gotten it since you were in front. But obviously, I can only assume that was a hey, I started the first 2 races thing, can you move aside type of thing.
No, it was more of a late-breaking maneuver. If he wasn't my teammate, I would have just continued to turn in and see what happened, but, you know, just let him by, because I didn't want to get into him.
Also, that wasn't like a Team Orders thing, that was actually just surprise Canadian.
That was me hitting my regular braking point, and probably him braking later than he meant to.
I mean, the way that he kind of took it to late apex, it looked like he just let him by, but I don't know.
I had to straighten my steering. I was turning in, so I had to.
It literally looked like you had like a loading screen mid-apex, like, where's the exit of the turn? Or maybe that's just the replay cameras that do that. I don't know. Camera at La Source is about 7 miles away from the racetrack, so.
Yep, sounds about right. Yeah, I'm happy to still have some pace on this game after playing GT7 since my last race here. Still looking for a bit more though. Leader ran away after the first lap or so.
Oh, and then the lead ran away from him.
Yeah, we had consistency, that's for sure.
You also had your front end. Anywho, done firing strays at Dylan Bam. Onto the race winner, AJ Knickel. I had the theory during the race of tire warming being an issue. Was that as much as I thought it was, or was that dealt with properly?
I mean, tire warming was more difficult than it normally would be just off of the start sequence. But once they were up to temp, I mean, it was completely fine. I'll piggyback off what Tim said there about consistency. He certainly had more consistency than me. I seemed to keep making mistakes, especially early in the run. I felt like I had the pace. I just really difficult to keep it between the lines. I don't know how other people were, but I know the people on PS5 who have the HDR issues were really struggling with the shadows here. I can vouch for that entirely, especially into like turn 1 and stuff. So yeah, tire warming not an issue, but the shadows were the bigger issue tonight for sure.
And because I struggled to find a win post or anything regarding the second race. What is today's result? Like, I suppose that puts you comfortably in the points lead, right? With Dylan's
I think
car.
so. I won last week, I think, or last race.
I know you had a little bit to recover from getting yeeted by a crash that went all over the reels earlier this week or last week.
Yeah, I had a bit to recover, but I mean, I also finished 4th or something, so it wasn't like super duper like hard to recover. Like, you know, as long as when you make a mistake, you recover to a decent enough position to at least keep yourself in the fight. It's a little bit easier, but yeah, last week we had a pretty good run. All considering, or 2 weeks ago, I guess, at Le Mans. Tim really knows how to put together a good setup. Our base setup that we ran last race is pretty much the same here. 2 very completely different types of tracks, just very comfortable setups that are versatile, and obviously Dylan very good at making the setups work too. So yeah, it was just really good to see everybody have a quick car tonight.
And even your former teammate ended up in the actual 3rd spot, so...
Yeah, I mean, we're working with Goat Inc., so I mean, he's still basically... When you work as one big conglomerate, we're all basically teammates. So yeah, the setups get passed around, and we all just kind of help each other out with
I think some would call that a monopoly, but that's neither here nor there.
I mean, the way I see it is, there's only, I mean, on a good day, 6 of us, so I mean... That is no different than what we deal with on a, you know... I mean, I think back to IndyCar at the start of the season when, especially in the Indy race, when there's like 12 cars running with the same setup, it's, yeah, I don't really feel any type of... I feel like it's pretty fair, all considering when you have another big group of guys working together on setups and stuff. It's not against the rules, and... you know, we keep pushing how far the setups will go, especially this far into the lifespan of the game, and we'll just hopefully keep clicking wins off and racking up titles.
So to keep wrecking, I'm like, no, that's like the opposite of what you want to do.
Yeah. My Canadian came out there, sorry.
Well, that's about all the questions I had, because admittedly this race was, it was kind of business as usual. There were no big twists to adapt to. It was just kind of drive to the end, really. At least that's what I saw. The twists were going on in the mid-pack.
I mean, the twists were really, like, I mean, in the middle of the race, I really thought, like, I mean, there were definitely some twists at the front of the pack. Dylan had his spin that I recreated early in the race. He spun, and immediately I spun, and I didn't even realize he spun until I saw the gap. Tim was like, oh, he spun too, and now Tim made up all the time, and I kind of threw all that away. But then, you know, Dylan went for the late pit stop, and we made up the gap on fresh tires. I was starting to struggle in the middle of the stint, especially on the amount of gas we were on with the amount of tire life we had. So, no, it was really good, honestly. Really fun race. It's always fun battling with Tim because he's a super clean driver. He'll leave space even when the racing's super tight. But yeah, it's always really fun.
I meant more like crashes or safety cars, but they didn't have a ton of battles, is what I meant. And, you know, nothing crazy to that. You just had to avoid spinning. So, if we prolong the interviews any longer, because I'm out of questions, you're kind of just filling in the gaps for me, more or less.
I talk a lot.
It helps. Like, I didn't have anything to question because I don't want to say the race was boring, but at the front there wasn't a whole lot to look at, and if there was anything to look at, I was probably looking at battles in the mid-pack. So, with that said, that will do it from Spa for the Air Prototype Challenge. I don't know what's next week. Probably something in Europe, if I had to guess, but knowing me, it's probably not. But I've said something. I would check, but that would just awkwardly delay things even longer.
It's older.
Yeah, I think next week is Zolder. I'm sorry for that. I didn't hear you say that. I was clicking my mic off, but yeah, I think next race is Zolder. Yep, we do like Belgium. Next race is Zolder's fun. It's got lights, so it's a night race, so it should be interesting. It's fun because it's got lights. No, it's really cool track, honestly, for these cars. These cars are really on the nose, and I think that especially with the field we have, everybody seems really close together, at least in terms of everybody kind of has somebody they're battling. So especially on a smaller track than this, when we go to Zolder, it should be a fun race. A lot of hard braking zones, a lot of twisty bits. This is where the cars excel. So I think it should be a really good one for sure.
Yeah, smaller tracks usually are better. So, and anything that's not Formula 1. And even then in Formula 1 I can still... Actually, it's kind of the opposite. So, usually longer tracks are better. But, regardless, yeah, that'll do it for Spa. Next week we remain in Belgium, but in between there we have the three-piece combo of live streams Friday, Saturday, and Sunday that I do not commentate. Remember when I was like the only commentator in this league? Me either. But yeah, as for the sponsors, I have to remember the pseudo script I came up with. It's been almost a month since I broadcast. DIVEBOMB, our title sponsor here at AutoRacingConnected, that keeps everybody up, keeps their viewers up to date with different news articles regarding European motorsports. You have SimLeague Pro, the forum-based site that ARC basically has made its home at this point. Handles recruitment, scheduling, and stat tracking. And anybody who looks on the forums can very easily find whatever series or game they're looking for. The Burn and Rubber podcast, major sponsor, more so on the NASCAR side of things, fittingly, since they mostly do interviews and podcast subjects of NASCAR, NASCAR stuff, dirt stuff like World of Outlaws, basically the small-time American racing scene. James McAdam, who our partnership with him allows us to utilize his video game and virtual photography for promotional posts on ARC's different social media spaces. That works. And then Age of Kinnickle Design, the design firm, company, whatever, that makes those promotional posts. But that is it from me. I have a noisy parent in the background, and until then, or until Monday, I should say, goodbye.